It's the magic of math here, and today we're going to be talking area and volume as we talk about area of a base multiplied by its height using a sandbox. We're going to begin by understanding that this question has three parts. And our real-world situation is that we have a playground that has two sandboxes. Each sandbox is in the shape of a right prism. Here's part A. The first sandbox has a square base with a side length of 8 feet. What is the area in square feet of the base of the first sandbox? And we're asked to show or explain how you get your answer. So pause, do your best work, and then come back to see mine. Welcome back. So we know that we're asked what is the area in square feet of the base of the first sandbox. We know that the area of a square is A equals S squared, S representing the side length of the square. And you should be able to get this from your state reference sheet when you're taking an assessment. We know that our square base of our square sandbox has a side length of 8 feet. So each side of our sandbox is 8 feet in length. So now, if we understand our formula for area of a square, area is equal to S squared, which is S times S, and we've already identified that each side of our sandbox is 8 feet in length. So we're going to replace S with the value 8. So A is equal to 8 times 8. 8 times 8 is 64, and now we need to answer in square feet. Feet times feet, 64 square feet. So we can conclude the area of the base of the first sandbox is 64 square feet. Part B. The groundskeeper filled the first sandbox with sand to a height of 6 inches. What is the volume in cubic feet of the sand that was used to fill the first sandbox to a height of 6 inches? And we need to show or explain how we get our answer. So I brought forth our image of our sandbox with our side lengths of 8 feet from part A. So here's where you pause, use the information given for part B along with part A, and solve. Then come back and hit play to see my solution. Welcome back. We are finding the volume in cubic feet of this square sandbox. We know from our state assessment formula sheet that volume of a prism is equal to B, the area of its base, multiplied by the height. We know that our height is 6 inches. We also know here that we've been asked to do this in cubic feet. So 6 inches we need to convert to feet. We know that 12 inches are in 1 foot, so 6 inches is going to be equivalent to a half of a foot, which I'm going to write as a decimal. You could write it as a fraction 1/2 or 0.5. Now we're ready to come back and remember that in part A, we identified that the area of this base was 64 square feet, 8 times 8. So let's rewrite our volume formula. We know that the area of the base is 64 from part A, and height in feet is 0.5 or 1/2. We're going to multiply 64 multiplied by 1/2, or half of 64, gives me 32, and our unit is cubic feet. So we can conclude that the volume of the first sandbox is 32 cubic feet. So our area was square feet. Our volume is cubic feet. Area is one linear measurement to the other, so 2, and our volume is base, length, or base and height, length, width, height. So 3 measurements multiplied together give us cubic. 2 linear measurements give us square. All right, part C. After filling the first sandbox to a height of 6 inches, the groundskeeper had 24 cubic feet of sand left over. She used all the leftover sand to fill the second sandbox. The second sandbox has a base in the shape of a rectangle. The base of the second sandbox has a perimeter that is less than 35 feet, and the groundskeeper filled the second sandbox to a height of 6 inches. We're asked what could be the length and width in feet of the second sandbox, and we need to show or explain how we get our answer. So please pause, do your best work for part C, and then come back to see mine. Welcome back. Reviewing, we're finding the length and width in feet of the second sandbox. So we're going to start by understanding that we're going to use volume, base times height. Volume we are given is 24 cubic feet. That's how much our volume of sand is going to be. She used all the leftover sand, which was 24. So we know that we're filling the sandbox to a volume of 24 cubic feet. Now we can move on and we're going to talk about height. This last one right here tells us the height of 6 inches, but we need to put it in feet. We've already reviewed that 6 inches is a half a foot, so we can put that in. I'll use a decimal, you could use a fraction. And then we're going to talk about B. Capital B, or uppercase B, is representing the area of our base. We know that it has to be 48 because half of what is 24? Half of 48 is 24. So I know that the area of my base has to be 48 because 48 multiplied by 1/2 is 24. So now we need to understand that because this isn't a rectangle, we know that our area of our base is going to be equal to length times width. So we know that length times width is going to be 48. So we're going to come over here and say that 48, what two values when multiplied together give you 48? So we know that we can start right here, 3 times 16, 4 times 12, and 6 times 8. There's a few others too. You could do 1 and 48, you could do 2 and 24, but there's a little caveat here. We're told that the perimeter has to be less than 35 feet. Perimeter is the distance around, so the total of all 4 side measurements. So if we did 16 plus 16 plus 3 plus 3, that's going to be greater than 35. So we're going to eliminate that. 12 plus 12 is 24, plus another 4 is 28, and another 4 is 32. So we know that 4 and 12 could be a choice. Then we can look at 6 and 8. 8 plus 8 is 16, plus another 6 plus 6 is going to be less than 35, right? Because 8 plus 8 is 16. Add 6 gives me 22. Add another 6 gives me 28. So we know that these are our 2 possible answers. You only need to identify one. So the length and width of the second sandbox could either be 4 feet by 12 feet or 6 feet by 8 feet. And there you have it. That is how you find area and volume of a square, a rectangle, or of a prism, volume of a prism. Thanks for joining me today at The Magic of Math, where we continue to master math one video at a time. I hope you have a great day, subscribe, and come back soon.